Have you been pouring endless hours into your business and feeling stuck in the visibility game? What if you could learn how to make your content work smarter, not harder? In this game-changing episode, we brought on an SEO expert to reveal the secrets to attracting dream clients through strategic content optimization, SEO, search engine optimization, right? Which is the key to actually working less. Discover how to optimize your existing content into a client-attracting machine and unlock the power of keywords to boost your visibility. And see how this might be the missing piece in your business growth puzzle. Are you ready to transform your online presence without the overwhelm? This is your episode. We're going to give you a roadmap to getting found by your ideal clients. I'm glad you've made time to be here today. Welcome to Authenticity Amplified, your resource for attracting and connecting to your ideal client. The go-to podcast for entrepreneurs on the go to grow their business. I'm your host, Shauna Rodriguez, podcast strategist and the founder of the Solopreneur Sisterhood. I'm here to bring community to the entrepreneurial journey and learn alongside you as we tap into knowledge and insights from experts to help you grow your business. I know how much effort you put into your business, and this is useful and practical information coming straight to you wherever you are, whenever you have the time to listen. Welcome to Authenticity Amplified, your resource for attracting and connecting to your ideal client. The ideal podcast for mindset, messaging, marketing, and podcasting for entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Shauna Rodriguez, a fellow entrepreneur and founder of the Authentic Connections Podcast Network. I'm excited to learn alongside you and share with you bits of my experience, but it may further the conversation. Today, I'm honored to introduce you to Sarah McDowell. She's the SEO manager for the Captivate podcast host. They are amazing. They're one of the top hosting companies. And she is also the host of the SEO Mindset podcast. What I appreciate about Sarah is how approachable she is and how great she is at answering questions. She's very helpful. She also has her own podcast community in the UK, which is very exciting because she's very supportive of the podcasting community. So welcome to Authenticity Amplified, Sarah. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. And what a welcome that was.
Hey, I'm just getting used to the flow, but we try to be welcoming. We try to be welcoming at the
very welcoming. Very welcoming. I feel like I'm blushing a little bit.
Oh, I like that. I like blushing, but we need a little color to start the show with, right?
we do. We definitely do.
Especially to balance, because I'm all the way on the west coast of the US and you're all the way in the UK. So it's dark where you are, even though it's not even noon yet where I am.
It is very dark. I mean, I have got lights around me to try and, amplify the face.
You're doing a good job with that. You actually balance that pretty well. I'm impressed because that's not easy. When it gets dark here, my lighting does not work well at all. So you're doing great. So with my opening question, we like to try to do this balance because we know you're a hard worker. Working with podcasting is, hard work sometimes. But remind us of the beautiful things you work for. So what is the best vacation you've ever been on?
Oh, my days. Okay. Can I answer with two?
Ooh, even better. Yes.
So one of my best holidays was just when I finished university and I wasn't quite ready to, get into having a job and doing proper adulting just yet. So I was like, I need to have a bit of fun. So me and a couple of friends did New York and Canada, which was very exciting.
Nice, like Montreal part of Canada or what part of Canada?
Yes. So we did like a little tour. So there was Montreal in there. There was Ottawa, Toronto, because that's where my auntie lives.
Oh, nice.
And there was somewhere else that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But yeah, it was an awesome break. So yeah. That was amazing. So there was that holiday. And then another one was when me and my girlfriend went to Sicily last year. So that was beautiful. Absolutely stunning.
When you have people that are working these industries, we need to be reminded that there is breaks and it's important to have holidays and breaks. So I'm glad that you got to share that. And I call it a vacation, not holiday, because you call it a holiday, right?
Yes, it is holiday in the UK.
Yes, this is the holiday. Yes, I love that. I love that. And yeah, I didn't call it that.
Not at all. Not at all.
It works. And then we also do wisdom worth sharing. So what is the advice that you have been given that has made the largest impact on your career?
I love these questions.
Yeah. We were going to get to the SEO, but we got to get to know you a little bit and give a little bit of advice to our listeners.
Digging deep here. Okay, my advice is don't be afraid to say yes to new experiences and opportunities, okay? There has been times in my career where I've put off saying yes to something because I'm scared, right? And it's human nature to be scared of new things, okay? Because we don't know what that experience is like. We don't know whether we're going to like it. We don't know if we're going to be any good at it. So there has been times where that fear has got in the way of me saying yes or me delaying me saying yes. Because at the end of the day, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. If you hate this new experience or this new opportunity or whatever it is, just don't do it again. Whereas you might, right? Or you might actually really love it. And if you hadn't have said yes in the first place, you would have never known that this is one of your new things or one of these things that actually you're really passionate about and you're really good at it. So don't be afraid to say yes to new things. Yes, it's scary, but 9 times out of 10, the fear of something has always been much worse than the actual doing. So that would be my advice.
I like that. And you can always say no later. So just because you say yes at the start doesn't mean you can't say no later.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Exactly.
Say yes and see where it goes. I like it. I like it. That's very valuable. Thank you. So now to jump into SEO. And we're going to start because we have all different levels with our listeners. So let's start with SEO and what it stands for.
Great question. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. So it sounds a bit lingo-y and it is a big word there. But basically, how I'd explain what SEO is there are certain things that you can do to a website and pages to optimize it so that when people are searching for relevant terms or queries in Google, search engines like Google, your site is shown or your pages or your content is shown to that person who's searching for a relevant term. Now, Google has another swanky word, an algorithm. So basically an algorithm is, you just got to think of it like a checklist. So basically when Google is looking at what pages or what content or what to show to someone based on what they have searched, they have like a little checklist that they go through and they basically tick things off and they're like, okay, this is a good page or content to show to this person for this term. So does that answer that question?
Yes. And so when we think of search engine optimization and search engines, so Google's a search engine. Should we also be thinking of things like LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter? Is everything search engines? Is Apple Podcasts a search engine? Are these all search engines? Or should we just try to limit our thinking to Google to make it simpler to kind of grasp all of this?
I mean, that is a very good question. I need to stop saying that, don't I? Every question that you come at me with, that is a great question.
Well, I might actually start another podcast. So that's a very good question because I get that a lot.
That is a great question. So that is a tricky one to answer because obviously there are different search engines out there. And like you said, like YouTube is a search engine, LinkedIn is a search engine, social media, podcast platforms are a search engine. But I don't want people to feel overwhelmed at the same time, right? Because if you're casting your net too wide or you're spreading yourself too thin, then you're not going to get the results or what you're wanting to just because you don't have enough time to focus on everything. So what I would suggest is finding out where your audience are. Where are they hanging out? Okay. And put your efforts into that space. And I'd recommend focusing on, so say, for example, you're like, okay, I want to focus on Google. Okay. I know that people 9 times out of 10, if someone has a question or they want to search something, they're going to go to Google. So that's where I'm going to focus. Yeah.
Yeah.
So get yourself set up and focus on that. And then once you've got to a place where you're happy, you're getting traffic from that search engine and you've got a good strategy, by all means, then go and look at other places like your apps, like LinkedIn, like YouTube. But I'd just be mindful about spreading yourself too thin and also don't overwhelm yourself by trying to do too much at one time.
Yes. And starting with, because they're like the Mac Daddy, like they're a big place to start. And they do. So Google does search YouTube and it does search LinkedIn and it does search all those places. So they're like the largest search engine, I would think. And so they're the big one to start with, and understanding what their needs are is the best place to start, and then maybe get more specific.
100%. So 2 things to say there. So you must have seen it when you are searching on Google. Sometimes you get like a video carousel, and that video carousel is being pulled from YouTube. So we know that Google, it's not just video carousels, they'll pull in image carousels or all different types of things. Like if you look at a Google search engine results page now and compare it to 10 years ago, it is so different. It's so
different. Yes.
Yeah. So it's great advice on YouTube to focus there, because we know that YouTube is being shown in the search engine results pages. And also, I just want to share a stat with why it's also a good idea to like look into a search engine like Google. So the keyword best podcasts alone gets just under 6,500, hang on, I can't say this word out loud, 63.9 thousand monthly searches. Okay.
Wow. Best podcast is the term?
So the term, just on its own, best podcasts get on average 63.9 thousand global searches per month. That's on a monthly basis. And that's just one standalone keyword. So that is your opportunity. So I know from that stat that people are going to Google to search for podcasts as well. So like best SEO podcasts, best business podcasts. So there's a stat to share with you there. My brain is late in the evening. So when I first saw that number, I was like, am I saying that right? But hopefully I have.
Yes,
It's a big number.
So 2 things from that. One thing is that keywords, and this is a thing that is important for folks to understand, that keywords are actually phrases and combinations of words a lot of the time, which I think is something that for me has been important to understand and to get in my head, that like it's not just like the word, it's a combination of words sometimes that you're actually trying to do for SEO, not just a word. And so that's like, as you're trying to identify what your keywords are, that it's a combination of words or a phrase sometimes as well, correct?
Yes. And what a really good opportunity for podcasts are. So they're called long tail keywords in the industry. And what that means is just, so usually when you're talking about keywords, it's up to about 3 words in that search term. A long tail keyword is basically a phrase. So it's usually above 3 words, but it's like people asking a question or a longer tail thing. So for example, how do I do podcast SEO, for example? So that would be a longer tail keyword. And something to consider as well is pages will rank for loads of different keywords. So whilst it's important to the main keyword that you're focusing on, what you've got to remember is that you've got to think of it on a topic level. So it's not just the standalone keyword, but synonyms. So keywords that are related to that main keyword and like related terms. And a page can rank for many different keywords because we're humans and we search and we go to Google and type in different things, don't we? How you would search stuff on Google is going to be different to how I search stuff on Google.
Yes, exactly. And so with part of that, so as much as we have 64,000 searches a month for best podcasts, like my podcast showing up as podcast is not as likely to happen when there's, so many podcasts out there. How do you balance finding keywords that are being looked at a lot and finding keywords that aren't as populated by everyone trying to be that keyword?
So something that you've always got to bear in mind is relevancy. Okay. So how relevant is that keyword to what how relevant is that keyword to your podcast episode or a page on your podcast website, for example? Okay. Relevancy is always key. Something to bear in mind is obviously the more broader a keyword is, obviously the higher volume of searches it's going to have. Yeah. So for example, SEO podcast, right? That's going to have a relatively high search volume because it's general. It's it's top level. But what you've got to consider is, because it's very general, you don't really know what someone is searching for in regards to that. So what is better is to niche down, or you guys say niche. Is that right? Niche down?
I say niche. And I definitely hear it said differently. And so then I'm like, am I saying it right or wrong? And I didn't know it was a UK or English thing. So maybe that's what it is. But I say niche. But I definitely hear it say different ways. So
I've heard niche. It just reminds me of itch. And I always get a bit itchy whenever I say it. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent again. So relevancy. So yeah, what I would do is niche down. So your longer tail keywords or your longer phrases, yes, they're going to not get as much search volume, monthly search volume, but they're going to be specific to what someone wants to learn about or what someone wants to find out about, whatever they're searching for. And if you have a podcast episode that is related to that really niche targeted keyword, you're going to get a better success rate, because people are more likely going to check your podcast episode out because you are so relevancy 100% there. Like, you are giving what people want, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So in my network, and the Authentic Connections Podcast Network, when I work with my clients, like, we actually identify like what are the keywords that connect to your podcast, to you, because I work with mostly entrepreneurs, with your business. Like, what are the keywords that your clients, your customers, because it's podcast is like, how do you find, like, what is your way of like connecting, your dog whistle way of like getting under, like, what are the words, what are the ways they're going to know you're speaking to them? And we try to find what those words are and find the ways we can insert them into titles of episodes, into like the different ways we're doing the descriptions. And so really you need to have a podcast website, or you need to have a place that you're putting those things so that it can be searchable and findable and they can be pulled out, really, right?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And I am a big fan of repurposing your podcast episodes and the content that you have. So there is a bit of a debate in the industry whether or not search engines like Google automatically transcribing your audio. If they are automatically transcribing your audio, they are a machine at the end of the day, and they're going to get it wrong. 9 times out of 10. Like, they're not going to get it 100% correct, are they? So I suppose there's 2 points here. One thing that I always recommend is repurposing your content. So when you're recording a podcast episode, you've got great content that you can use, and you can transcribe that audio and rework it into a blog and post that on your website. You can't just sort of transcribe it and then copy and paste and put that on as a blog, because you need to tidy it up. You need to give it a structure. You need to give it subheadings. You need to remove the filler words. It needs to be a blog at the end of the day. Okay. But what's great about that is, say that you've done that and you've posted that blog on your website, you could also, on top of that, embed your player so people can listen. So someone will stumble across that article thinking it's just a blog, but then when they scroll up, they're like, oh, actually, this is a podcast. Oh, I've never heard of this podcast. Oh, I actually prefer consuming content by listening to it rather by reading it. And you've got yourself another listener. So that's just an example of how you can boost your discoverability with repurposing your content. There's also an argument about how important transcriptions for your podcast. So where you have, however you show your podcast episodes on your website, you should have a podcast website, and each episode should have its own individual page. And on that page, you need to have a transcription of your podcast episode, because a transcription is important for accessibility, and accessibility is important, and we should be doing that anyway. But it again also helps Google understand what your podcast and what your episode and what you're about, because I said earlier about Google, they could be automatically transcribing, but they might not be getting it quite right. So it's really important that when you do transcribe, that you tidy up your transcription as well to make it easy, because when Google is looking at the page, you need to help them out. Basically, you need to give them as much useful information so they can understand, okay, this is what this page is about. This is what this episode is about. Okay, this is relevant for this search term that someone is searching for, if that makes sense.
Yes. Couple questions. So With a lot of the podcast hosts that we use, and including Captivate, there's a way that you can have your transcript. So if you go to the player that they give you or the podcast website they provide that it has the transcription is available is there. But that transcription is not available to Google, and that transcription is not a support for SEO purposes.
So just to check that I've got the question right. So in the web player, I have you can select the transcription and it shows on the player. Or
yes, if you've inserted it into, so with all the different stuff with Buzzsprout, with Captivate, with all these folks, because I know that for accessibility purposes, I've always made sure no matter where I've been that there's a transcript available and we've checked it, but it's just inside the player inside that. So it's not on a separate page for the podcast, and it's not something I've entered separately on a page for a podcast. It's something that's like a drop down on a player.
Yeah. So how I handle that with my podcast is because I use Captivate. Shout out to Captivate. Because I upload my transcript, like you say, it's available on the player, but also because I have a Captivate website enabled and each of my episodes have their own unique page, I have the transcription available within the text, within the content on the page. So it's easy for Google to access, crawl and see it there. So I would just do it just to be on the safe side because you never know.
It's not being crawled when it's inside of a player. So if you want to actually have it for SEO purposes, you need to pull it out separately. And is that something that you can automate through a bunch of the systems, or is that something you just have to pull it out yourself manually each time?
So because I use Captivate websites, and that's just a button that I've toggled. So yes, I want a Captivate website. It does it for me automatically. So as long as I've uploaded my transcript within the host, it will then show it on my episode page.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's just the settings for you to do that. So if you have a website player just make sure you have it so you can see when you go to the website, you actually see.
Yes, I would do that to be on the safe side. I'm not 100% sure whether Google would call it if it's on the player. I'm not 100% sure, but I would just be safe, okay? Make it super easy for Google and other search engines as well. And you've also got to think about your users as well. Like some people might not think to look on the web player as they're scrolling the page, whereas if it's just there, bam, in front of them, they can see it.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Definitely. That's very helpful. So making it a separate blog post so that you actually are condensing the information, making it very digestible that has the information on it, making it so the transcript is potentially available to be crawled and to get the information out of are all things that are helpful. And do you also make sure that you're using your keywords? Show descriptions aren't used inside podcast players. Like Apple Podcasts doesn't necessarily use that as something they're using as in their search engine pieces. But on your website, when you have podcast description, to make sure you're using the keywords and phrases that are important is probably part of helping with that as well.
So I would recommend that everyone gets themselves some sort of keyword research tool. So what a keyword research tool will do is you input a topic or an idea, and this keyword research tool will give you, okay, this is what people are searching for in search engines like Google, and this is the average monthly search volume. Obviously, it's just a guesstimate. Like they've got data, it can be more or less, but it gives you like an average monthly search volume, so you know, and you've got a benchmark. Now, there's loads of tools out there. Just go to Google and type best keyword research tools out there, and there'll be like listicles out there where websites have reviewed, so you can check them out and compare them. Some are free, some are paid for. Basically, the ones that you pay for, you just get more fancy features, but you don't need to worry. At this stage, all you need, a free version will be absolutely fine for you, because all you need to know is, okay, this is the keyword and this is the search volume. Okay. So don't worry. You can go free. Don't pay for one if you don't need to. Every podcaster should be using a keyword research tool to help them plan their episodes, because by using a keyword research tool, you know what people are searching for. So while you're planning out your episodes, you might come across a query or a term, a synonym, so related to that topic or what you're looking at, that you hadn't even thought about in the first place. And you can be, actually, that's a really good topic for me to delve into. Or maybe as you're planning it out, you're actually like, oh, actually, this is a quite heavy topic and I need to split it out into a part 1, part 2, part 3. So always use a keyword research tool to help you identify and find like what people are searching for. 2 free ones on the top of my head that I would recommend using: Answer the Public and Also Asked. They're awesome free tools. And yeah, like you just put in a topic idea and it will give you back so many ideas and suggestions of what you should be talking about or what you should be like planning your episodes around. And then when it comes to where you're using your keywords, get it in your episode title, use it in your show description, use headers and put it in your header of your show description. Within Captivate, you can also, for your individual episodes, you can put your meta page title and your meta description in there as well. So you can get your keyword in there. One word of warning is don't keyword stuff. So this is a bit of a old school tactic that used to work back in the day, but obviously Google has got much more sophisticated. So keyword stuffing is where you literally, so say you've got a podcast episode title and you've literally listed out like keywords and synonyms of that keyword. Google don't like that. Listener apps have cracked down on it as well. Places like Apple, they don't like it. And it's not going to be helpful for your users. SEO should never get in the way of your users and user experience. So don't keyword stuff. Like your title, your show description, all of these things still need to make sense. But just a word of warning, don't list out loads of synonyms or keyword stuff so you're just getting a keyword in there for keyword's sake. Obviously get it in there if you can, but it needs to still be quality. Do you know what I mean? It still needs to make sense.
So with your website and putting things onto your website. So when you put an image on there, you can have the option of putting information and data about the image, which then brings it up like on Google search around images. So when you're putting things on there, like if you do have specific episode photos or just photos in general on your website, is it good to put information in there so people, when Google actually searching those tags that you insert when you're putting things on your website? So should it say that it's a photo of and tells about the photo in a way that has keywords that connect it? So even though it's a guest, like, so if I had it for this episode, should it say like, photo of Sarah McDowell, SEO expert, and Shauna Rodriguez, podcast expert, or whatever it is, entrepreneur and podcast expert, because, entrepreneur podcast, SEO, like those things are in there as well, instead of just saying like photo of 2 women. Like, would you want to have that type of stuff in your images so that it's actually bringing up images that would connect?
Yes.
Is that helpful?
So the lingo, the terminology is your image alt tag. So the whole reason an image alt tag exists, again, is for accessibility reasons. So the reason that is, say, for example, someone has a screen reader because they have issues with their site, they have the image alt tag, a screen reader will read it out. So then someone knows, okay, this is what that image is. I can't see it, but there's a description of what it is. So back in the day, SEOs would just spam the hell out of everything. So as soon as someone heard that Google looks at keywords in your page title, Google looks at keywords in your image alt tag, like they'd just take this information and then spam it. Okay. So obviously that's not useful for users. It's not useful for accessibility. So obviously Google has cracked down on these kind of practices. So when it comes to your image alt tag, you should definitely always use it to describe what's going on in the image. If you can get a keyword in there and it makes sense. So in your example, 100%, because you're explaining what that picture is. However, if you had a picture of, I don't know, a cup of coffee and you were like, Sarah, SEO expert, that coffee, do you know what I mean? Like,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, it always comes down to relevancy. And is it relevant to put in? So if it makes sense and you can get the keyword in there because that keyword actually describes the picture, then hell yeah, you do that. Big yes, yeah. Big tick.
But I don't say a cup of coffee once drank by Shauna, an entrepreneur. That doesn't do it. That doesn't describe what this actually is, even though.
No, exactly. So if you're clutching at straws to get a keyword in, or again, like you don't want to be listing out keywords. So you wouldn't want to say Sarah McDowell, SEO expert, SEO specialist, search engine optimization strategist. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Keep it succinct, say what it is, but don't torture the person who's actually using the screen reader to have to listen to your ridiculousness. Like find the best way to say what it is in a way that would actually connect to somebody that was doing a search as well.
And just always remember what the purpose, like image alt tags are there for accessibility and to describe an image. Okay. So that's what you should do.
That's perfect. That's very helpful. And that's the same thing. So on a different podcast I listened to once, they just said that when you do the name of who the guest is, which is available in some different podcast hosts, and when you do the name of the host, which is available in all podcast hosting companies, that you should put that type of information. And instead of just saying like Shauna Rodriguez is the host, it should be Shauna Rodriguez, blah, 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 blah. And some of them got ridiculous with stuffing on that. And then I also heard somewhere else that somebody had fallout because they did too much stuffing on that with their podcast. So what is that balance? Like it's fine for it to say like Sarah McDowell, SEO manager for Captivate or something like that. Like it's okay to have some of that type of stuff in there, but shouldn't say it 10 different ways to get
100%. Yeah. Okay. You've got it. Okay.
That is so valuable. I love that. And we're to the point where we need to wrap things up. So do you have anything specific that you want to make sure we get in before we kind of go to our wrap up questions?
I suppose the biggest thing is I think some people can be scared when they hear the word SEO or search engine optimization because it feels, what is this thing? It's scary. And once you know what you're doing and once you've had practice and once you start experimenting and doing some things, you're going to get more comfortable with it. And it's not rocket science at the end of the day. Yes, like with anything, if you don't know about something, there is going to be that learning curve. And you need to be kind to yourself and give yourself time to learn this new thing. Once you've grappled with the basics and you start understanding, and because a big thing as well is I hate lingo. I hate business lingo. I hate business talk. Acronyms, love-hate relationship where everything's shortened for no apparent reason, just because. But once you've understand the lingo, understand what's what and what's going on, it makes a whole lot of sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. And at the end of the day, what Google wants to do is give its users the best possible content it can for whatever that person has searched for. So as long as you are focusing on that and you're not doing anything that's like spammy or you're doing something to trick Google, you'll be fine.
No tricks. I like it. I definitely like it. I like it. Thank you. That's very helpful. So as we just kind of wrap things up, because again, Authenticity Amplified is a podcast. And so can you give us an example of someone in your life who you think is very authentic and how they present themselves? And what about them do you think represents authenticity?
Oh,
yes. I know we're shifting gears a little bit, but that's kind of, we want to wrap around to that point about authenticity.
I don't know if this is a cop-out, but can I say my girlfriend?
Absolutely. Yes. And we love that you have a girlfriend who's authentic. Yes.
Yes, 100%. 100%. My girlfriend, Tash, she has a tutoring business. And her tutoring business, her focus is supporting children with SEND, so special educational needs. And the reason why I'm saying Tash is she is so authentic. So the whole reason her business exists is because she was a trained teacher and she didn't like the strictness and how teaching was done in a sense of there's no room for creativity, or if you've got ADHD, if you've got autism, if you've got any special educational need, that's a barrier, and she didn't like that. So her business is all about supporting kids and and showing them that if you've got these different things, it's not a barrier. Actually, you have superpowers. So for example, if you've got ADHD, there's times where you go in focus mode. I think I got that wrong, but she's so authentic in her business and how she teaches and how she inspires children and stuff. And she's just a great example of someone who sticks to being herself, and it works. And the amount of kids that she's helped and like get awesome grades and things like that. And it's just great to see the relationships that she's having. And yeah, so I don't know if it makes me like pass me the sick bucket because I'm saying my girlfriend, but yeah.
No, I love it. I love it that she's an entrepreneur and she has her business type of thing. You know what I mean? This is her business. And so I think that speaks even better that you found somebody who's in business for themselves and being who they are and expressing that authentically has led them into this career for themselves and this work that they do.
Yeah, 100%.
She's perfect.
100%. And it shows like her business has grown. Like she's been going for like 5 years and it gets bigger and bigger. And I think that comes from authenticity in the relationships that you kind of have. And it's always a reminder of, because I think when I first got into SEO or any career, I was like, oh, it needs to be professional, serious Sarah all the time, when not at all. Like authenticity is, we're all humans at the end of the day. We all need to connect with one another. Like if something that I've got better at is, and I'm going off on a tangent again, but if someone doesn't like me and I'm being authentic and it's me, then that's their problem. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what it's about, is authentically amplifying who you are is how you're going to find your clients and find the people you're supposed to be working with. And
Exactly.
So you are right on key.
And if you are trying to be someone that you're not, you're going to attract the wrong people and it's just going to end not very well. So
the way that you grow and find the right people is by being genuinely who you are.
And being you is wonderful. There's no issues with anyone. Like all your quirks and all that lovely stuff that makes you is wonderful.
Yes, that is perfect. Awesome. So then we need our real world application, which I do believe is for folks to go check out to find themselves an SEO tool for them to start using. And you mentioned, so I use Answer the Public. I love Answer the Public, actually. It's nice because of the way they arrange things and stuff too. So Answer the Public, and you did also Asked. Is that the other one that you named?
Yes. So the difference between Answer the Public and Also Asked is, so Also Asked takes its data from, people also ask in search engine results. Yeah. So when you search for something and you get, so that's where that tool populates its data from. Whereas Answer the Public, that's a little bit different because, when you're typing into Google and it will auto suggest a term or a keyword, that's where Answer the Public gets its data from. So they're a little bit different in where they pull their data from. I don't know if that's helpful.
No, that's very helpful. So for everyone, for their application to find, if they don't already have an SEO tool they use, to find a tool that they can use and start.
Another tool. Can I just say one more tool?
Yes, we love tools. Yeah. Tell us.
So a cracking tool that is free is Google Search Console.
Ooh, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah. So Google Search Console is great because you've got Google Analytics, that most people will be aware of, like gives you sort of data and measurements of like how well your site's doing, clicks and impressions and all that sort of stuff. Google Search Console is similar, but it also gives you data on how you can improve your website. So with Google Search Console, you can see what pages Google is having an issue with. Yeah. And you can also see, you get more data because in Google Analytics, you don't get much data on keywords because a lot of it will be hidden. You get data within Google Search Console so you can see what terms your podcasts and episodes are coming up for as well. So it's great for monitoring your website and seeing if there's any issues and Google can't access a page or there's something going on or you've got broken URLs or what have you. It's a really awesome tool to keep that monitored and so you can fix it. But you can also see, okay, I'm ranking I'm getting good clicks and traffic from these keywords. What can I do? Can I optimize more? Can I do more like episodes or things like that? But yeah, Google Search Console, it's free and everyone should be using it.
That was beautiful. I love it. So how can people find you? Tell us how people can find you if they want to connect with you more.
I'm a hermit. You can't find me anywhere. No, I'm joking. I'm not.
Other than that, podcast, other than, details.
So a couple of ways. Obviously on different social media channels, mostly active, I'd say, on Twitter and LinkedIn. On Twitter, I am Sarah MCD UK, but my friend pointed out that it also stands for Sarah McDuck.
That's easy to remember. Very memorable.
Easy to remember. Or if you just search Sarah McDowell on LinkedIn, it might be a quite common name type Sarah McDowell SEO in LinkedIn and I'm sure I'll come up. Also, my podcast, the SEO Mindset. So just quickly can I just quickly talk about the SEO Mindset?
Yes.
Yeah. The SEO Mindset it gives personal growth and career development tips to SEO professionals. So what we found was there's lots of great podcasts out there that tell you how to do SEO, but what we were finding, me and my co-host, the wonderful Tasman Suleiman, was that there was a lot of people suffering with anxiety, burnout, imposter syndrome. So our podcast looks at those kind of topics. And then, to be fair, I have a few friends who don't work in SEO, but they listen to my podcast because we're talking about these kind of subjects that are related to everyone, like how to get a pay rise, how to say no, knowing what your boundaries are, how to have a healthy work-life balance. The only thing is that when we give examples, it's an example in the SEO industry. I've got so many friends who have listened to a podcast episode that don't work in SEO and they've said it's really helped them. So
that's amazing.
Check it out.
Yes, check it out. Definitely. Thank you so much. I love that you were here with us today. Thank you so much, Sarah.
I feel honored to be asked. I've had a whale of a time. And yes, well, I hope this episode has been helpful for your listeners.
I'm sure it has. And 80% of small businesses may be solopreneurs, but that doesn't mean you have to do it alone. And that goes for podcasters too. It can be very solo. So I'm here every single week and I hope you will be too. Thank you for joining us.
Isn't there so much to learn on our entrepreneurial journey? Thanks for spending time with me here on Authenticity Amplified. Be sure to hit that button to follow or subscribe so you'll be alerted as new episodes are released. Here in this first month, they are coming out frequently. If you are a solopreneur and want to get to be part of this podcast launch, we are doing a fun activity with authentic business voices. Go check it out on YouTube. The link is in the show notes. And if you go to bit.ly/authenticBV, capital A for authentic, capital B, capital V, as in business voice, you can grab a quick time to record your video with me and be part of this fun event as our launch. I'd love to meet you. Entrepreneurship can feel like an isolating journey. After all, 80% of small businesses are solopreneurs. That doesn't mean you have to do it alone, though. We're here every week to be part of this adventure with you. Until next time.